Tears and a wrong call at 3 a.m. The unexpected stranger who will change her life forever. In the dead still of the night, with the world wrapped in peaceful silence, Emily's phone rang. The clock blinked 3 a.m. She could feel the lump in her throat swell as she reached for her phone, its harsh glow cutting through the shadows like a knife. Who would dare disturb the midnight serenity? As she swiped to answer, a voice filled with desperation erupted from the speaker, weaving panic into the very fabric of her being. "Help me, please," it pleaded, sending chills racing down her spine. This wasn't a random call. It felt too real, too urgent, like a dark omen in a cursed fairy tale. What she didn't know was that the voice belonged to Owen, a stranger tangled in a web of mystery and danger. He was on the run, fleeing from something sinister, something that gasped just outside of the light. Emily can't shake the feeling that his pain echoed inside her own chest. The way he breathed, heavy with fear, made her heart race as if it were a coiled spring ready to snap. "They're coming for me. Please, I need your help." Panic lurked in his words, igniting a fire within her to take action. She had never been involved in anything like this. Her ordinary life felt like a quaint painting shattered by a sudden storm. Donations of adrenaline flooded her system. Emily debated her next move. Should she scream for help? Call 911? Or was there something more to this desperate plea? Curiosity gnawed at her, pushing her toward a mysterious fate. Intense questions echoed in Emily's mind. Who was he? What had he done? Why did it feel like fate had pulled their worlds together in this shocking moment of vulnerability? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Just then, a loud crash echoed in the distance, a shattering of glass, a sound that fractured the night air. Her heart raced faster, and fear prickled in her fingertips. Was it them? The shadows flickering just outside her window felt alive with danger. Did that sound mean they were near? Owen's voice cracked through the static. "Emily, please. You can't let them find me." In that moment, everything changed. Her world of routine was suddenly at odds with a raw, urgent call to action. Will she open her home to a strange, phantom figure? Or will she slam the door shut, locking the unknown from her quiet life? Torn between fear and compassion, Emily stood at the edge of a decision, ready to plunge into the storm swirling outside her door. What awaited her in the darkness? And who was this unexpected stranger, really? Emily's breath caught in her throat as the crashing sound reverberated through her home. The walls seemed to lean in, urging her to make a choice. Should she fling the door open, inviting the unknown in, or would she retreat into doomed safety? Every muscle in her body screamed for her to act, even as dread gripped her heart like an icy fist. "Emily." Owen's voice crackled. Panic surged through his plea, piercing the dread-thick air that surrounded her. "Please, I'm running out of time. They're coming." She took a step back, her back pressed against the cool wall behind her. Owen's desperation was palpable even across the distance of a phone call. It twisted something deep inside her, a visceral pull that connected them in a way she couldn't comprehend. "Who's coming for you?" she whispered, barely audible even to herself. If on cue. Another loud noise echoed from outside, a clatter mingling with the heavy silence of the night. Without thinking, she gripped the phone tighter, feeling the slick plastic against her clammy palms. "Are you safe? Hide somewhere." "Where are you right now?" "I'm behind a store just off Main Street." "Emily, I can't explain everything, but they won't stop until they..." The call sputtered, static snapping between them like the tension in the air. Emily felt a rush of warmth filling her chest, overtaking the icy fear. She had spent too many nights safe, but lonely, cocooned in her predictable life. This was chaos, and somehow, she found herself wanting to dive headfirst into it. But could she really help this stranger? This call was an unwelcome storm that threatened to destroy everything she held dear. "Stay on the line," she urged, blurring the lines of her reserved nature and stepping into unknown territory. I'll come help you. The moment the decision left her lips, a surge of adrenaline pushed her forward. She rushed to the window, heart thudding like a drum, muscles coiled and ready. She peered through the curtain, straining to see the world outside. The streetlights flickered ominously, shadows darting like ghosts across her yard. "What do you look like?" she asked, her voice trembling. "How will I know you?" The call cut off, and the hollow buzzing feedback invaded her ears. Emily's heart sank. Taking a deep breath, she fumbled for her keys, feeling the cool metal in her palm. The urgency of the moment felt more pressing than anything else she had known. Before she knew it, she was flicking off the lights in her apartment, each switch plunging her into deeper darkness. Swallowing hard, she opened the door, adrenaline surging with each heartbeat. The crisp night air wrapped around her like a shroud, and with her heart pounding, she stepped outside on the cracked pavement. She searched for signs of Owen, scanning the shadows for any hint of movement. Every rustle felt magnified the leaves, the distant sound of footsteps. Then, from behind a dumpster in the alley, a figure emerged, face partially hidden by the darkness. "Owen," she called out softly, breath hitching in her throat at the uncertainty in her voice. No response came. The silence was a living thing, thick with tension. Suddenly, headlights sliced through the night, illuminating the alley with blinding brightness. Emily's breath froze. In that moment of clarity, she couldn't breathe, couldn't think, because she understood, with chilling certainty, that danger was closing in fast. "Emily!" Owen shouted, his voice urgent, desperate. "Run!" Before she could even process his warning, she felt the ground tremble beneath her feet, panic racing up her spine. The bright lights bore down on them like an approaching storm, and Emily's decision was no longer a question, it was a demand from survival. But who was truly in danger here? The thought twisted in her mind as she turned to flee, the shadows clawing at her heels. With every ounce of strength, she took off into the night, her heart racing faster than the footsteps behind her, urging her to escape into an uncertain future. Who was pursuing Owen? And what secrets would be uncovered as they ran? Emily sprinted down the narrow alley, her pulse pounding in her ears, drowning out the echo of Owen's frantic voice. She glanced over her shoulder just in time to see the figure blending with the chase's chaos. Shrouded in darkness, it appeared more like a shadow, not a real person, but something darker, ethereal. Adrenaline surged through her veins, propelling her forward. "Where are you?" She gasped into the night, urgency clawing at her throat. Each desperate step seemed to lead her deeper into peril. The bright headlights of the pursuing vehicle painted the ground in rapid flashes of white, making the asphalt glow eerily. "Keep going." Owen's south voice was close now, filled with fervor. "To the right. There's a fire escape." Emily obeyed, her feet gliding on instinct rather than thought. She veered right, darting past piles of garbage and a rusted shopping cart. The fire escape loomed ahead like a metallic lifeline, and she was drawn to it by some primal instinct. With every beat of her heart, the fear of the unknown chased her closer into the embrace of that familiar safety. She reached the fire escape, fingers trembling as she clutched the wrought iron ladder. With agility born from sheer terror, she began to climb, heart hammering against her ribs as she reached for the next rung. She could feel the surface cool beneath her fingertips, and with each upward movement, a mixture of hope and despair twisted in her gut. "Emily!" Owen's voice broke through again. "You need to hurry. They're onto you." But who are they? She could hardly hear her own voice over the chaotic thrum of her heart. "What is happening?" Before he could respond, she heard tires screeching, the unmistakable sound of a vehicle slamming to a halt at the alley's mouth. Emily froze, surprise mingling with panic, as she strained to see what had plunged into the darkness after her. Shadowy figures emerged, lit by the dim glow of the headlights, a line of watchers blocking her escape. "Run now?" Owen shouted, voice sharp and unyielding. She climbed faster, her feet slipping on the metal. The cool air took on a metallic taste now, as if the taste of fear lingered thick in her mouth. With one final push, she reached the roof. She rolled onto the surface, heart racing, dragging her body to a crouch. Once she was on solid ground, she could see the figures below, their faces contorted with urgency, illuminated sparsely by the car lights. Owen bounded in and out of sight as he dodged them, sparks of desperation igniting the glint in his eyes. Emily, we need to split up. He gestured frantically toward another building across the narrow alley. The door there. Go now? But she hesitated. What if he was wrong? What if separating put them both in more danger? Go, he urged again, his expression twisted between fear and fierce determination. Instinct took over as she nodded, and with one last look at him, she dashed for the adjacent building. The roof felt steady beneath her feet as she dove over the edge and vaulted toward the door. The lock jangled as she pushed it open, jumping inside to a dark, empty space that smelled of dust and stale air. Inside, she stood still, barely breathing. As she leaned against the wall, the echoes of her footsteps still reverberating through her ears, she gathered herself. Was she safe? The dim light from a window barely illuminated the room, shadows hugging the corners. That car, those figures, what did they want with Owen? She pressed her hand to her chest, her heart racing, hovering at the brink of a breakdown. Suddenly, her phone buzzed in her pocket. With a shaking hand, she fumbled to retrieve it, desperately hoping for Owen on the other end. But as she glanced at the screen, dread pooled in her stomach. It was a message from an unknown number, 3 simple words stretched across the screen. We're watching you. The weight of those words settled like a stone in her gut, a churning anxiety that promised no escape. What had she stepped into? Emily's breath began to speed up again as she grasped the gravity of her situation. In the deafening silence, she knew one thing for certain. Whatever was happening wasn't over yet. As the shadows closed in around her, she realized that answers were lurking in the dark, waiting to collide with her reality. Would she dare confront them? What truths lay hidden in the chaos? Emily's heart raced as she stared at the cryptic message on her phone. Her breath came in shallow gasps. It was as if a hand had clamped down over her throat. The shadows in the room felt alive, creeping closer around her. She looked around, her eyes wide and searching, hoping to catch a glimpse of something, anything that might give her a clue about what came next. The silence was suffocating, replaced only by the sound of distant sirens wailing in the night as the city seemed to pulse alive below her, the chaos raging outside reminding her of what lurked in the alley. There was no time for panic. It wasn't just her life that hung in the balance. It was Owen's too. Think, she whispered to herself, squeezing her phone tightly. She stepped cautiously toward the window, peering through the grime. The street below was empty now, but she could see the faint outline of the vehicle they had used. It was still there, idling like a predator waiting for the prey to emerge. With every minute that ticked by, her body grew heavier, burdened by the weight of uncertainty. Was Owen all right? What if he had been caught? What if he hadn't been able to escape? Each question tore at her, and she cursed herself for separating, for trusting the wrong instincts. Suddenly, another buzz vibrated through her hand, snapping her back to reality. A second message from the same unknown number lit up her phone's screen. Her breath stalled as she read the 4 words, "Follow the whispers tonight." Fear coursed through her veins like ice. What whispers? Where was she supposed to follow them? Her mind raced, and just as she started to formulate a plan, another sound broke the stillness in the deserted building, a creaking noise, like footsteps on the floor above. Emily's heart plummeted. Someone was here. Cold dread clawed at her insides as she pressed her back against the wall, fingers sliding over the rough surface, itching to find a way out. She couldn't stay here. Without a second thought, she turned and darted toward the darkened hallway that led deeper into the building. "Please, let there be a way out," she murmured, fingers running across the walls for guidance as she made her way further in. The hallway twisted and turned, shadowy corners creating an additional layer of uncertainty. Those whispers tugged at her ears, though she couldn't discern if they were figments of her imagination or true sounds beckoning her. The idea that someone could be watching her made her skin crawl. Emily reached another door and hesitated. Would it lead to freedom or further into danger? With a determined shove, she swung it open. The room was small, filled with old, dusty furniture and the overwhelming scent of decay. Sunlight crept through cracks in the boarded-up windows, just enough to illuminate a single object in the corner, an old mirror. She approached cautiously, realizing that its silver surface reflected her pale, terrified face back at her. But behind her reflection, She caught a fleeting glimpse of something, a silhouette lingering in the shadows, watching. "Who is there?" she called, voice shaking, but the only answer was the echo of her own voice returning. Fear gave way to resolve as she took a deep breath to steady herself. She couldn't hide forever. She couldn't let her mind play tricks on her. She had to confront whatever was out there and whatever truth awaited her in the outside world. Taking a step back from the mirror, something in its depths caught her eye. Another movement flickered within, this time sharper, more deliberate. The surface rippled as if responding to her own escalating heartbeat. Without warning, the door behind her slammed shut with a sickening thud, plunging her into darkness and freezing her breath. She whirled around, panic setting in as the room closed in on her. What was happening? Time was slipping through her fingers, fraying like an old thread, and then she heard them, whispers mingling with the silence, wrapping around her like a shroud. The messages were cryptic but urgent, echoing over and over in a maddening chant. Find the truth, find the truth. Her resolve hardened. She needed answers. Somewhere in the madness lay the key to pull back the curtain shrouding her reality. As she stood alone among the fragments of her fears, one single thought crystallized. She had to uncover what was hidden in the night, even if it meant confronting the shadows that sought to engulf her. With the whispers guiding her steps, Emily prepared to face whatever awaited her, one heartbeat at a time, following the darkness into the unknown. What awaited her beyond that darkness? Would she discover the truth, or would it consume her entirely? The tension in the air felt electric as Emily's heart pounded in her chest. The whispers grew louder, an unsettling chorus calling her name, beckoning her deeper into the darkness. Swallowing her fear, she turned back to the mirror, the reflection now appearing distorted, the shadows swirling behind her like a living thing. Follow the truth, the words echoed in her mind, urging her to act. She had to try. Carefully, she reached out, fingers brushing the surface of the glass, half expecting it to rip away like a veil. Instead, the mirror felt cold and unyielding, mocking her desperation. Suddenly, the whispers shifted, becoming a single voice that emerged from the chaos. "Emily, find me." It was a voice she recognized. Owen. Her breath caught as hope fluttered in her chest. How could it be? Did he somehow follow her here? Where? She called out, urgency flooding her tone, but the voice was gone, swallowed by the silence. She shook her head in frustration, gripping the edge of the mirror as if it could provide a solid answer. She needed to get out, to make sense of this madness. With one last glance into the murky depths, she turned her back on the mirror and faced the closed door. It stood like a barrier between her and whatever lay beyond. Summoning every ounce of courage, she pushed against it. To her shock, the door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit hallway lined with peeling wallpaper. A chill seeped through her skin, but she pressed onward, her footsteps echoing softly against the wooden floor. As she moved deeper into the building, the whispers began again, swirling, almost playful now. Find the truth before it's too late. The words were so insistent, almost taunting. Were they guiding her, or trapping her further in this nightmare? Emily's mind raced. The chaos outside faded into a muffled memory as she turned a corner, her eyes darting from side to side. She was looking for something, anything that would lead her to Owen. A door swung slightly ajar down the hall, flickering light spilling out, as if enticing her to step through. Don't be afraid, the voice whispered once more, this time softer, almost tender. The sound surged through her, wrapping around her heart like a warm embrace. It was time to take a leap of faith. She grasped the doorknob and twisted it, stepping inside. The room surrounding her was filled with scattered papers, their words blurred by age, some highlighted with frantic scribbles. In the center, a desk loomed, lit by an old lamp flickering like a heartbeat, casting eerie shadows across the walls. She felt like she was intruding on someone's secret. As her eyes adjusted, she saw a photograph lying face up on the desk. It was fuzzy and old, but a familiar face stood out. Emily leaned in closer. No way, it was Owen, smiling broadly, arms draped around two other men who looked decidedly out of place. A terrible realization rippled through her. These weren't just smiles, they were badges of some deeper connection. Then, a sudden sound cut through her thoughts. The door slammed shut behind her, the click of a lock echoing ominously in the silence. Panic surged. Who's there? She shouted, turning sharply, her heart racing. What do you want? A shadow moved in the corner of her eye, and she whirled, panic gripping her throat. Just as suddenly, a light flicked on, illuminating a figure standing in the doorway. A deep-set smile etched across a familiar face she never thought she'd see again. Emily, the man's voice was both soothing and chilling, sending shivers down her spine. You've been looking for me. From the depths of the chaos she had barely survived, an unexpected twist had emerged. Would this encounter bring her answers, or deeper into the peril of the night? What awaited her now, shrouded in shadow and deceit? The moment of truth was closing in, and Emily had to decide whether to embrace the darkness or fight her way back into the light. The figure stepped forward, the light casting harsh shadows across his features. Emily's heart raced as she took in every detail the familiar set of his jaw. The way his brown hair fell slightly over his forehead, the intensity in his eyes that felt both welcoming and threatening. Owen, she whispered, unsure if her mind was playing tricks on her. Hope warred with fear, twisting into knots deep in her gut. He smiled, the expression doing little to ease her uncertainty. Yes, it's me. I've been waiting for you. Waiting? For what? Frustration bubbled up. What is happening? You disappeared. I thought she trailed off, remembering the last moments they shared before everything spiraled out of control. The worry, the desperate texts, the gnawing panic, it all came rushing back like a tidal wave. There's so much to explain. You have to understand, he began, but his voice chilled as another shadow darted behind him, flickering in the peripheral. Emily flinched. She squinted, trying to see through the half-light, pounding her palms on the desk. Who else is here? She demanded, the urgency in her tone rising as dread pooled in her throat. The walls felt closer, the air thicker. It's just me, Owen reassured her, but the tension in his eyes betrayed his calm. I was trying to protect you, to keep you safe. Safe from what? The words slipped out harsher than she intended. She stepped closer, drawn by something deeper than fear. What do you know? He hesitated, moving his gaze to the scattered papers on the desk, a flicker of something dark passing through his expression. These people, they're dangerous. They know about you, Emily. They know the connection. The truth. Emily's breath hitched as her mind raced again. She remembered overhearing snippets of conversations between Owen and some of their friends' hushed tones and troubled gazes. What do you mean, the connection? Look at the photograph, he gestured. It's not just an old moment. It's a doorway to something bigger, something they want to control. Emily's eyes went back to the picture on the desk, the image suddenly heavy with implications. The two men flanking Owen hadn't just been his friends. They were part of something sinister. She felt the ground beneath her shift, reality fracturing around the edges. What are you talking about? Before he could answer, a loud thud echoed down the hallway, reverberating through the room. Emily froze, her breath caught in her throat. The whispers morphed into frantic murmurs, drowning out her racing thoughts. Emily. The warning in Owen's voice broke through, had her spinning to the glowing doorway, but it was too late. A figure loomed in the shadows beyond, a presence that felt wrong, unnatural. Get down, Owen shouted, lunging toward her as the silhouette advanced, dark and ominous, shifting in the flickering light. Emily stumbled back, her heart pounding louder in her ears than ever, her instincts screaming at her to flee. But there was nowhere to go, encased in the confines of a room that suddenly felt like a trap. What is going on? She cried in panic, searching Owen's face for answers that didn't come. The ominous figure stepped into the light at last, revealing sinister features twisted in a menacing grin. You shouldn't have come here, Emily, he sneered, though there was something almost familiar about the look in his eyes. What do you want? She spat, summoning every ounce of courage she had left. Just the truth, he said, and for the first time, fear flickered across Owen's face. Emily was on the brink of desperation, fighting to understand a reality spiraling out of control. Was she ready to uncover what lay hidden in the dark corners of her life? Before she could grasp the situation, that connection surged back to the forefront of her mind, chilling her to the bone. Suddenly, a decision loomed ahead, one that would decide between freedom and the clutches of a nightmare. Would she stay and fight, or flee into the unknown? Time hung in a fragile balance as she locked eyes with Owen. The hushed air held its breath, waiting for her choice. The figure grinned wider, his teeth glinting like knives in the dim light. Emily's heart raced as she scanned the room, desperate for an escape. Panic flooded her mind. Was this really happening? Tell me who you are, she shouted, her voice trembling. But even as she said it, she felt a gnawing recognition, as though she had crossed paths with this menace before. A ghost from her past. Just a friend trying to help, he replied smoothly, though his tone dripped with malice. The words twisted around her like a noose, tightening, suffocating. Owen stepped protectively in front of her, almost instinctively, but Emily could tell he was straining under the weight of fear. Stay back, he warned, his voice low but strained. She caught the trembles in his hands, as if he were preparing for a fight that he didn't believe he could win. I didn't think you would be so bold, Owen, the figure mocked, his sharp laughter echoing off the walls. But if you're here to protect her, then you should know the truth can hurt. Just leave us alone, Emily cried, backing away deeper into the shadows, desperately seeking the flimsy comfort of the dark. What truth? What are you talking about? Every story has a beginning, he said, his gaze steady, glimmering with confidence. Yours is tangled in darkness, rooted in secrets you've yet to uncover. Emily felt the urgency swell like a rising tide. I don't know what you mean. Just tell me what you want. Her chest tightened as her breath quickened, cloaked in confusion. I want to show you what you've been missing. The figure stepped closer, the light illuminating his sharp features, weaving a strong thread of fear into her gut. You have a legacy, Emily, a calling that you are blind to. The connection isn't just about Owen, it runs deeper. Owen's expression hardened, fear simmering under the surface. Enough, he shouted, brandishing a nearby chair like a weapon, desperate to shield Emily from this chaotic threat. Is it fear you're feeling, or an eagerness to discover the truth? The figure taunted, undeterred by Owen's bravery. Because I can promise once you know, there's no coming back. A creeping dread settled in the pit of Emily's stomach. What did he mean? Suddenly, the photograph on the desk felt like a time bomb, ready to explode with answers she wasn't sure she wanted. Just then, a loud crash shattered the air, and the previously steady shadows erupted with movement. The door swung open, revealing another figure small and swift, sending adrenaline coursing through Emily. Get them out, a woman yelled, her voice sharp and insistent. Emily barely recognized her from a hazy memory, a flash from the past she thought she'd put behind her. Everything spun out of control. The man in the shadows retreated, hissed an angry curse, and vanished back into the dark, leaving only chilling silence behind, broken by the faint echoes of his familiar laughter fading away. Come on, the woman insisted, urgency spilling from her every word as she reached for Emily's arm. We have to go now? But Emily stammered, confusion swirling in her mind. What was happening? Who was this woman? Don't ask questions. Just trust me. Owen's eyes were wide, desperation etched in every line on his face. He nodded toward the door, urging her with an intensity that sparked a flicker of hope. Before she could respond, the woman pulled Emily away. Every instinct told her to stay put, but the urgency in Owen's face forced her to move. As they hurried down the hall, Emily couldn't shake the feeling that an invisible chain had just clamped around her life. She had chosen to flee, yet the truth still lay waiting, a relentless force tugging at her, haunting her every step. Could she outrun the shadows of her past? The heavy weight of uncertainty loomed over her as they reached an exit at the end of the corridor. What awaited her beyond those doors could be just as dangerous or worse in that pivotal moment. As the door creaked open and blinding daylight flooded in, Emily braced herself. Had she just exchanged one nightmare for another, or was there a chance at uncovering the truth? The question lingered in the air, echoing in her racing heart as everything around her teetered on the edge of chaos. Emily squinted against the harsh light as she stumbled through the doorway, her heart still pounding from the encounter. The sun felt blinding, its rays a stark contrast to the suffocating darkness she'd just escaped. Keep moving, the woman urged, pulling Emily down a narrow alleyway. The grip on her arm was firm, almost urgent. Emily could barely register her surroundings: graffiti-stained walls, a path littered with debris, and the distant hum of traffic. The chaos of the moment pressed in on her. Who are you? Emily finally managed to gasp, her voice shaky. Just someone who cares, the woman replied, glancing back nervously, as if expecting the specter from the shadows to follow. My name is Sarah. I used to know you, back when things were different. Different? Confusion clouded Emily's mind. Who was this woman really? Yes. I don't have time to explain right now. We need to get you safe. There was a tense urgency in Sarah's tone. Emily grabbed hold of her words like a lifeline. They rounded a corner and spotted an old van parked haphazardly against the curb. Sarah led Emily to the side door, fumbling with the latch. Get in, she urged, glancing over her shoulder again. Emily hesitated. But Owen? He'll be okay, Sarah insisted, exasperation creeping into her voice. Trust me, we can't waste any more time. The engine sputtered to life as Sarah jumped inside, and without waiting for a reply, Emily followed her in, shutting the door with a thud. The vehicle roared in a way that sparked a mix of hope and anxiety. As they sped away, Emily took a moment to catch her breath, her mind racing through thoughts like a whirlwind. What did that man mean about my legacy? She finally asked. And why did he say I have a calling? Sarah's grip tightened on the wheel. Her knuckles were white. He knows things. Dangerous things about you. Things that are linked to your past and your future. Emily felt her chest tighten. I don't want anything to do with my past. I thought I could leave it behind. The words spilled from her mouth, raw with fear and frustration. Sometimes the past isn't done with you. Emily, Sarah said softly, glancing at her before returning to the road. You have to face it, or it'll swallow you whole. They sped through the streets, weaving between cars, Sarah's face set in determination. Emily couldn't shake the feeling that they were being hunted. The tension was palpable, the darkness was still lurking, somewhere. Suddenly, Sarah slammed on the brakes. Emily jolted forward, her heart stopping in her chest. What? She gasped. A black SUV had blocked their path, engines rumbling ominously like a predatory beast ready to strike. Get down, Sarah hissed as she ducked, reaching for something under her seat. Panic surged through Emily. What was happening? Who were these people? She crouched low, feeling her heart drum wildly against her ribcage, as the SUV's windows rolled down, revealing men in dark suits. Where is she? One of them shouted, voice booming. We know she's in there. A cold chill slithered down Emily's spine. She instinctively grabbed Sarah's hand. What do we do? Hold on, Sarah replied, her eyes fierce and alive with purpose. Before Emily could respond, Sarah slammed the gas pedal. The van lurched forward, screeching as it accelerated away from the block. A burst of adrenaline coursed through Emily's veins, battling against her gnawing fear. But the dark SUV wasn't finished. It roared after them, tires screeching as they pursued. Emily felt the weight of destiny closing in. Who are they? She shouted, her voice rising above the noise. People from your past, Sarah replied, fear flickering in her eyes. They won't stop until they find you. As they zigzagged through the streets, dodging cars, Emily grasped desperately at the fleeting thread of safety. In that moment, everything shifted. A revelation struck her. The past she thought she could outrun was hurtling toward her, like a freight train, determined and insatiable. Where would they take her next? Would she finally learn the truth, or would it all end in disaster? Every second stretched into an eternity as they sped down the road, the darkness closing in again and again. The van swerved violently as Sarah wrestled with the wheel, fighting to maintain control. Emily's heart raced as the SUV tailgated them, its headlights piercing through the rear window, illuminating everything in a harsh glow. The fear was like a living thing, crawling up her spine and making her breath come in shallow gasps. Just hold on, Sarah shouted again, her voice taut with stress. Emily's grip tightened on the armrest, her knuckles turning white. An endless highway stretched out in front of them, but it felt as if the walls were closing in. The SUV fired a warning shot, the crack of gunfire ringing in the air. The sound shattered the moment, sending shockwaves through Emily. She jerked as the van lurched again, spinning slightly as Sarah veered onto a side road, trying to shake their pursuers. Where are we going? Emily yelled over the roaring engine, panic tightening her throat. Somewhere safe, Sarah replied through clenched teeth. There's a place. Before she could finish, the SUV came barreling up alongside them. Emily looked over, her heart sinking as she locked eyes with one of the men. His expression was as cold as the metal of the gun in his hand. "Get down." Sarah barked again, and Emily ducked instinctively as the man leaned out, aiming directly at them. The shot rang out, shattering the Van S window, glass exploding in a million tiny pieces that sliced through the air like deadly confetti. Emily felt a sting on her cheek and realized she was bleeding. "Are you okay?" Sarah yelled, glancing at her momentarily before focusing back on the road. "Just drive." Emily shot back, her heart pounding louder than the chaos around them. With a surge of determination, Sarah pushed the van to its limits. They shot past a rundown gas station, the lights flickering like dying stars. Emily saw people inside, frozen in shock, their faces a mix of horror and intrigue. No one moved to help. They were spectators in a horror film, watching a nightmare unfold. "Sarah, what is happening?" Emily's voice rose with painful urgency. "Why are they after me?" "They believe you hold something valuable. Something they want," Sarah said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "What could I possibly have?" Emily felt the tears well up again, mixing with the blood on her cheek, blurring her vision. "I'm just me." "No, you're not," Sarah snapped, her tone more fierce than before. "You have a gift, but you need to embrace it, or it'll only bring you suffering." The SUV roared behind them, relentless. Sarah turned sharply, taking a side street that led into an even darker area of the city. Rundown buildings loomed, the air thick with a sense of despair. As the chase continued, Emily's mind raced. What gift? A legacy? What was all of this really about? Suddenly, a flash of movement caught her eye. In the distance, she saw a figure darting across the street, silhouetted against the fading daylight. Sarah didn't seem to notice as she narrowly whisked past the figure. "Did you see that?" Emily shouted, her heart racing with a new rhythm. "What?" Sarah's focus remained on the road ahead, but the tension in her voice was palpable. "There was someone. We need to stop. They can help us." Emily felt a desperate urge to turn back, her intuition screaming for her to listen. "No." Sarah's voice snapped, but Emily could see fear flicker in her eyes. Another shot rang out. This time the van shuddered under the impact. Emily gasped, feeling dizziness wash over her. "Hang on," Sarah shouted as she yanked the wheel. They hit a pothole hard, and Emily's body jolted against the seat. Ahead, the figure from before was waving, arms flailing. Emily knew instinctively that they were in trouble, but sensed a glimmer of hope radiating from that ghostly silhouette. Then everything flipped. In one harrowing moment, the van spun out, tires squealing as they careened toward the figure, a crash course as fate bore down on them. And just like that, Emily made her choice. "Stop!" she screamed as the ground rushed up to meet them, the clattering sound of metal and glass so close now. But would it be too late? Would this decision lead them straight into the hands of danger, or open a door to the truth? The unknown awaited them, and with it, every mystery of her past. Emily's heart raced as the van twisted violently, metal groaning under the pressure of the chaos surrounding them. The figure ahead dashed into the narrow path. They were barreling toward a man, desperately waving them down. "Sarah, wait!" she shouted, her instincts screaming for her to stop, to see who it was. But Sarah was unwavering, her focus sharp as the world outside blurred past. "I need to get you to safety," Sarah yelled, but Emily could feel the pull of something deeper. The man looked familiar, both a stranger and a long-lost echo. The van flipped slightly, the headlights catching the man's face, illuminating his expression. It was someone she had seen before, a flicker of memory igniting in the back of her mind like a faded picture coming to life. "No, he's here to help." In a split second, a decision ignited inside Emily. She reached for the door handle, adrenaline surging. "Stop!" With a sudden jolt, Sarah veered to the side. The van skidded as it came to a stop, tires screeching against the asphalt. Emily threw the door open, leaping out before Sarah could protest. "Emily, wait!" Sarah's voice trailed behind her, a fading desperate cry, swallowed in the surf of fear as Emily dashed toward the man. It was like running toward a memory wrapped in a dream, each step feeling both liberating and dangerous, reality flickering like a film reel gone haywire. "Jonathan, it's you," she called out, her voice mixing urgency with disbelief. "Emily, thank God," Jonathan shouted back, his eyes wild with urgency. confirming every stray thought slashing through her mind about their intertwined past. You have to come with me. They're close. The SUV roared back into sight, rallying toward them like a predator swept into hungry pursuit. Get in. He grabbed her arm, pulling her toward the shadows of the alley. The darkness enveloped her, its embrace both comforting and constricting. Emily barely registered the rush of wind as the SUV slowed, menacing figures emerging, faces twisted with fury. Time stretched horrifyingly as Jonathan yanked her behind an old dumpster just as they closed in. They're hunting you. You don't know how deep this runs, he whispered urgently, but I do. Tell me, she pleaded, the heat of terror creeping up her spine as fear clawed at her every thought. What is the truth? Your family, they weren't just ordinary people. They were involved with something much bigger, something powerful. Just then, a sharp crack erupted nearby as the men shouted for answers, ramping up the urgency. We need to go now? Jonathan glanced at her, his expression serious, breathing heavily. They need to find you before you uncover who you are. You're meant for more than what you've lived. Emily felt the weight of his words crack her shell of normality. The hints she'd picked up over the years, the whispers, the warnings were coalescing into a reality she and T wanted to see. But why me? We can't discuss this here, Jonathan answered, eyes darting. We'll talk when we're safe. Just trust me. Before she could question further, he grabbed her hand, pulling her deeper into the chaotic night as they weaved past alleys, scurrying like mice pursued by shadows. The heavy silence deepened as they reached a hidden entrance shrouded under graffiti-covered walls. He pushed her through a doorway, closing it quietly behind them. Inside, a dim light flickered, and they stood in a cramped, clutter-filled room. Emily's heart raced, but she felt an unexpected sense of calm wash over her. Okay, what is happening? She demanded, adrenaline subsiding into fast-paced curiosity. Who are you really? What do you know? Jonathan took a deep breath. I've known you all my life, but your family kept secrets. A darkness lingers near your lineage. There are people who will not stop until they uncover the truth, your truth. But what is it? She felt disoriented, grasping for something solid in a world that was now beyond recognition. I need to know. Your family was part of a legacy protecting something powerful, something that connects to you. His eyes bore into hers, capturing every speck of her attention. You have to reclaim it before they do. Before it's too late. A rush of emotion surged through her, a whirlwind of confusion, fear, and something else, a spark of courage ignited by desperation. In that moment, Emily understood. She had been chasing shadows, but now, she stood on the verge of confronting the very essence of her own identity. The room was thick with silence, punctuated by distant footsteps echoing through the building. The urgency grew heavy once more, and Emily felt her resolve hardening. I'm ready, she declared, her voice steadying as clarity washed over her. The unknown was no longer a black hole, but a horizon she was willing to pursue. Then let us uncover the truth, Jonathan said, relief washing over his features as he stepped closer, grounding her as the world outside simmered with intensity. But the moment was fleeting. No sooner had the weight of that truth filled the air than loud thuds resonated outside. The men were closing in, desperate and determined. With newfound strength, Emily took a deep breath. Their fight was only beginning. She fixed her gaze on Jonathan. Whatever comes next, we face together. As he nodded, they stepped toward the faint light streaming through a small window. Together, ready to face whatever fate awaited them, they prepared to confront the darkness that loomed outside, determined to unearth the truth of her legacy. The heart of the storm was rising, and within that turmoil, Emily could finally see the glimmer of hope, the promise that she would uncover the hidden paths of her past, reclaim her destiny, and emerge from the shadows, forever changed, and standing shoulder to shoulder. They could conquer the truth or fall together. But only time held the answer. Don't just stand by. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories packed with twists and revelations. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and support our storytelling journey. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about Emily's destiny. We want to hear from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to dive into this thrilling conclusion. Let us grow this community together.